Move this chair.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the court's first virtual swearing-in ceremony of 2021. Please keep your audio muted throughout the ceremony. If you wish to follow the speaker, you may want to set your view to speaker view. Mr. Julio Castillo, Clerk of the Court of Appeals, will offer opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dade. Good morning, everyone. And as Mr. Dade said, welcome to the first swearing-in ceremony of 2021. Just a couple of things. Again, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. When I administer the oath, I will use the word swear. If any of you object to that, you can substitute the word affirm. When I'm administering the oath, I will then ask you, to repeat after me. So thank you. Back to you, Mr. Dade.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. The courtroom clerk will now open the courtroom.
All persons having business before the Honorable Associate Judge now presiding over the District of Columbia Court of Appeals, draw near and give your attention. God save this United States and this honorable court. This honorable court is now in session. Please come to order.
The Honorable Judge Beckwith will offer introductory remarks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Corey Beckwith. I am one of the associate judges of this court, and on behalf of the Chief Judge, Anna Blackburn-Rigsby, and all of my colleagues on the court, I am so pleased to welcome you, the prospective new members of the bar, along with your friends and your family, to this virtual bar admissions ceremony. Now, in normal times, I would be welcoming you to the actual courthouse and inviting you to look around this amazing historic building. But having just ridden my bike to the court, I can say you should be grateful not to have to travel here on this remarkably hot and humid day in the District of Columbia. So there are certain advantages to virtual court proceedings, like, for example, being able to wear shorts under one's robe. Just a quick word about this court for those of you who have never been here and who may not know the role we play. As courts go, we are pretty new. We were created by Congress in 1970 to review all of the appeals coming out of the Superior Court, which is the trial court here, and from the DC administrative agencies. So we are a bit of an odd hybrid. We're a federal court, but we also function a lot like a state Supreme Court. The court created the DC Bar, and it is our duty to oversee its members, and that includes ruling on motions for admission of new members. So usually when I come to court to hear cases, it's something of a sober affair, and there's some kind of conflict. I mean, by definition, there's a dispute between parties, but there's also sometimes conflict among the judges. One thing my colleagues and I can all agree on, though, is that welcoming new members into our bar is one of the happier occasions we celebrate. And I'm delighted to have the honor of ruling on the motion for admission today. So I won't waste any more time getting to that task, and I will recognize Ms. Ilea Welch, who is the staff attorney for the Committee on Admissions, who will be presenting that motion on your behalf today.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, applicants. In the matter of admission to the bar of the District of Columbia Court of Appeals, I make the following motion. On behalf of the Committee on Admissions of the District of Columbia Court of Appeals, I, Ilea Welch Esquire, move the admission to the bar of this court, the applicants whose names appear on the attached list and who have satisfied the requirements for admission to the bar of this court. On behalf of the Committee on Admissions, I certify to the court that these applicants possess the necessary qualifications for admission to the bar. Thank you. Judge Beckwith.
Thank you so much, Ms. Welch. And while it may appear that I'm giving this motion somewhat less than thorough review, I know very well that the Committee on Admissions has devoted a great deal of time to your applications, and that it would not have put you on this list if anything were out of order. And so I am pleased on behalf of the court and all of my colleagues to grant this motion to admit today's candidates as members of the DC Bar. And I will now recognize Mr. Castillo, the clerk of the court, and ask him to please administer the oath.
Thank you, Judge Beckwith. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that as a member of the bar of this court,
I swear I'm the member of the bar of this court.
I will demean myself uprightly and according to law.
I will demean myself
uprightly and according to law.
And that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America.
that I will support
support the Constitution of the United States
I will
of America.
support the Constitution of the United States of America.
Congratulations. You may lower your right hand.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. The Honorable Judge Beckwith will give judicial remarks.
Thank you. And congratulations to the newest members of our bar. It is a tradition at these ceremonies, now that we have you as a somewhat captive audience, although not as captive as when we're all live and here together, for the presiding judge to make some remarks. And if you will indulge me, I'd like to follow that tradition. I want to talk first about what it means to be an officer of the court. Our DC bar rules state that, quote, the license to practice law in the District of Columbia is a continuing proclamation by this court that the holder is fit to be entrusted with professional and judicial matters and to aid in the administration of justice as an attorney and an officer of the court. This reference to being an officer of the court isn't just empty language. It has real meaning. And it's a big deal. As a lawyer, you have the power to help people who can't get that help without a lawyer. You can solve people's problems. It's an awesome and amazing thing. But the flip side, you have to know what you're doing. You have a great responsibility to get it right and to represent your clients zealously, but also to be candid. The courts have to be able to rely on a lawyer's candid representations about what the evidence would show, what a witness is expected to say, whether there are any factual developments that could make a case moot or otherwise affect its outcome, whether there's authority contrary to the arguments being made. As officers of the court, bar members have an obligation to make sure that their pleadings and arguments made in court are well-grounded in fact and in law. So we really rely on the candor of you, the officers of the court, in countless ways to ensure the integrity and the efficacy of our courts and to maintain public trust in the courts. So all of this means that without a vigorous and honorable and qualified bar, our courts would have a very hard time doing their job. So you and your loved ones should be proud, not just because you managed to make it to this point under the most difficult circumstances in the middle of a pandemic, but because your bar admission means that you have impressed those who have taught you or worked with you or known you in your communities as people of character and integrity who can be trusted to serve in these ways and to safeguard the public interest. Second, and somewhat relatedly, I'd like to share some practical advice looking back on my own career. And these observations might not be useful to some of you who have been practicing a while in another jurisdiction and have already learned these painful lessons yourself. But for the rest of you, law is hard. It's really hard being a lawyer. It's hard having responsibility for the matters of real clients. And it's especially hard being a new lawyer. So when you're starting out, there's so many things that are not intuitive or that are even counterintuitive that everyone else seems to understand. The law has its own language, and every area of the law, whether it's bankruptcy or contracts or criminal law, seems to have its own sublanguage. I was a public defender for my career before I became a judge. And I remember being completely overwhelmed when I started my job. And everyone was throwing around phrases like AWIC and DV and PFCV and a 1322B hold when they were referring to the abbreviation for a particular offense, a category of a case, or the authority that was being invoked for detaining one of your clients pre-trial. I had no idea what they were talking about, and I barely dared to ask. So what's even more unnerving than not being fluent in that language is not having the wealth of knowledge in the law that comes with years of experience in a particular practice area. I remember the first time I met with one of my clients in prison, he had questions about the legal issues in his case that I did not know how to answer, at least not off the cuff. 15 years later, that still happened on occasion. One thing you learn very quickly is you'll never know anything. But when you're just starting out, that's really stressful. So my advice, remain calm. Work really hard to find the answers, but when that fails, ask questions. Looking back, if I could do one thing differently, it would be to get over my fear of looking stupid if I asked a question about something that seemed possibly too basic for me not to know. No one has all relevant legal knowledge in her head the day she's sworn into the bar. The key is to have the tools to figure this stuff out. And that means devoting the time and effort to the task, developing good research skills. And when that research isn't clearing things up, seeking guidance from the people who have the knowledge and the experience that you haven't yet gained. Switching gears just a little bit, I urge you not to let that inexperience deter you from using your bar license to help people who cannot afford a lawyer. You're being admitted to practice in the District of Columbia, a vibrant community. Real people live and work here. Real people have very real needs here, including the need for legal services, for tutoring, for mentoring. Many people with really pressing legal needs go without legal representation in matters that are extremely important to their lives. And the high percentage of people in the city representing themselves is troubling, especially in a community that has the highest number of lawyers per capita in the country. So there are countless programs for pro bono service, including in areas in your practice that you'd be familiar with, or you could take on a project in a new area, and the DC Bar has programs to teach you how to do that so that your pro bono work would be as high quality as your regular work, as of course it should be. The pro bono opportunities run the gamut from, helping a person navigate a claim for disability compensation, to representing an abused or neglected child, or assisting an immigrant in seeking asylum from persecution in another country. You might help a person sort through what looks to a lay person like an incomprehensible and devastating problem. You could help untie what many times are fairly minor knots that nonetheless can tie up a person's life. Representing people who really need your help can be extraordinarily rewarding. I've known a lot of lawyers who in their day jobs handle these really high profile cases and major corporate matters with huge financial stakes. When they're sitting around with friends or colleagues looking back on their careers, they always come back to that death row inmate they represented, or that family they helped fight an eviction order, or that intriguing First Amendment case they volunteered to handle for a nonprofit organization. So you can get information from DC Bar's website or from the local legal service providers themselves. Explore these options or come up with your own, but don't let years go by before you do your part to carry on this bar's long and really great tradition of providing pro bono legal services to the economically disadvantaged people in our city. Finally, do your best to have a life outside of your practice, a rich personal life with your family and your friends. They've supported you and helped you during your law studies. They'll hear you complain enough about the long hours at work or the difficulties in the job market. Have a life. Being a lawyer is a pretty great thing, but it is not the only thing. Thank you all for listening. And again, on behalf of the District of Columbia Court of Appeals, congratulations and welcome. I hope to see some of you argue before me in this court, but either way, I wish you nothing but the best in your practice here. Thank you.
This court is now adjourned.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone.
You can give
Thank
yourself a
you
round of
all.
applause now.
So we're all done. We can leave.
Yes, court's adjourned. You're free to go. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for your help.
You're
Goodbye.
welcome.